So chapter 1 talks about, talks about a prison and a rose bush and a rotting old prison. And chapter 1's called The Prison Door, so it makes sense. And the last line kind of sticks out. It says, quote, "It may serve, let us hope, to symbolize some sweet moral blossom that may be found along the track, or relieve the darkening close of a tale of human frailty and sorrow." Chapter 2, Hester walks out, and everybody heckles her, and she has a scarlet letter on her chest, and it's in letter A for adulterer. And everybody is kind of surprised because she embraces her sin. She's not happy that she did it, but she accepts it, and people don't like that, so they heckle her more. That's about it for chapter 2. So chapter 3. Hester has the scarlet letter still on her chest, and she's has to wear it for a lifetime. And there's a guy named Chillingworth that is what we learn to find that is Pearl's father, and makes a gesture to Hester not to reveal his identity. And he comes back and he talks to a stranger and asks what was happening to her, finds out about the scarlet letter, and finds out about the child. What else? And then Reverend Dimsdale is told Hester to reveal the father of the child, but she refuses and says only father he'll have is a heavenly father. So that's about it for chapter 3. I'm out. So chapter 4, Chillingworth meets face to face with Hester and in a jail cell and tries to give Hester a potion. Hester refuses and thinks it's the devil, and Hester gets the idea that Chillingworth wants to find out who the father is, and Hester concludes that he definitely has revenge on his mind. That's about it for chapter 4. I'm out. So, chapter 5. Time passes, and Hester is released from prison, and she can leave Boston, but she chooses not to, and she settles somewhere that's away from everybody, and her shame really gets to her. She's still alienated by everybody. She tries to help herself and help everything with charity work and other things, but the people she helps usually insult her and make her don't forget about what she did and everything else. So that's that for chapter 5. I'll be back with 6 right in a bit. So chapter 6, it's basically about Pearl. She's described very strongly in this chapter. She has signs that she's crazy, and people notice it, that she's not normal, and people make fun of her for it. And she's asked Hester talks about God to her, and Pearl just says, "I have no heavenly father." That's a quote from the book that she said. And she's about 3, and she starts wondering about her mother's past and what's going on. And then there's a part where she decorates, or she does something with the scarlet letter, and Hester thinks that she might not be what everybody thinks she is, and she might actually be a normal girl. That's for chapter 6. be back. Chapter 7. They go to the governor's mansion, and Hester brings Pearl with her, and wants to accomplish two things: give a pair of gloves that she made for him, and find out if the rumors about Pearl being taken from her are true. And so the people and the townspeople think that Pearl's a demon child, and that if she's a demon child, that she needs to be taken away from Hester for Hester's sake, and if she's a normal child, she needs to be taken away from Hester for Pearl's sake, and that she'll be raised by a better parent. On the way there, they're like a group of kids fling mud at both of them, and Pearl scares them away, and then right before they enter it, they see Pearl who goes for it says like a rose bush in the story or something. That's what all I got from 7. I'll be back with 8 or about now. Chapter 8. So they talk to the 3 people in the mansion, and Pearl actually takes a liking to Dimmesdale, and Hester convinces him not to separate her and the child, and that she's a child that was for good, and then also remind for like good and bad to it's like her child, but she's also a reminder of her sin, and that like she's saving him from God's temptations. And like, for example, when she leaves like the mansion, a girl asks Hester if she wants to go to a witches meeting or something like that, some sort, and if she said if she didn't have Pearl she would, and it makes an example of like if she didn't have Pearl, it saves her like from her temptations and stuff. So that's about it from chapter 8. They're still together. She needs to keep the child for now. We'll see. So we got a leech, you could say, in chapter 9. So Dimmesdale is like, it's all secrecy and stuff for him. And, or not Dimmesdale. Yeah, Dimmesdale. No, Chillingworth, not Dimmesdale. Sorry. Scratch that. Dimmesdale's sick. Chillingworth, like, goes into society as a doctor, and he knows some stuff since he was captured by Native Americans. So, like when he first got there, it was nice, and everybody accepted him and stuff. And then as time passes, like, he's like, what do you call it? Like, people like wonder about his personal history and like what's going on with him, and like people start to think that he might be like the face of the devil and stuff. And Dimmesdale gets sick, and Chillingworth moves into him, and he uses leeches like to drain blood and stuff. That's one way he uses his like doctor stuff, whatever you could call it. And he gets very sick, and he won't marry anybody, and so they try to change that in his room. Dimmesdale's room is like filled with what happens with adultery and stuff, and then it says like that Chillingworth's room is like a laboratory and stuff. And as time, like I said, moves on, they think they start to question him, and like about who he is, and they get asked if he's the face of the devil. Later. Ooh, so the patient, which is, well, like I said before, it's chapter 10 by the way, is Dimmesdale, Chillingworth and Dimmesdale, and Chillingworth becomes obsessed with finding what's wrong with him, and collects herbs, spices, plants, whatever, and gets one from a graveyard, and that has certain kind of roots for an unconfessed sin, he says. And he goes in there, and they talk about like what I would call purgatory and sin, and they have an argument, or like it's like an argument, but I think they like disagree kind of. And they see Pearl dancing and putting, it says burrs, I think it's like flowers on the scarlet like letter on her chest. So And then Pearl notices and takes Hester away and says, like, refers to Chillingworth as, like, the black man. And, I guess, and then it goes about saying that, like, they had a disagreement, and then they became friends again, Dimmesdale and Chillingworth. And Chillingworth finds out that, like, sneaks up on Dimmesdale and, like, sees the scarlet letter, or not a scarlet, I'm guessing it's a scarlet letter, or, like, a letter of some sort, like, on his chest, but it says he finds something on his chest, and he, like, grins or smiles, but we're left in the dark, because we don't know what it is, but I'm guessing it's a scarlet letter, or, like a letter of some sort. So, it's chapter 10. This is chapter 3. So, Chillingworth, which is not Pearl's father. We'll learn to find out I think it's Dimmesdale, which I draw the connection to. But it's Hester's husband, and he wants to find out who the father is. And I read ahead, which it makes sense now that what Chillingworth finds on Arthur Dimmesdale's, like, chest is like a scarlet letter that she has because he made the same mistake, which is, or the same, like, deal, like, they're both in it on it together, which makes a whole lot of sense. That way, in class, it just went right over my head, but I got it now. We're all good. That's chapter 3. Chapter 11. So this makes, like, much more sense. It kind of confirms, I already knew it, but it confirms that, like, he's suffering from a sin too. That's why he's getting sick. He feels, like, the pain and, like, the guilt of it, and he tortures himself, and he even sees visions. It says he whips himself. What else? He whips himself, and he stays up all night, like, wondering about his sin, like, what he did wrong, and he wants to confess to everybody what he did, but he can't, and he won't, and, he's holding a vigil where Hester was, like, tortured and stuff, but I think it's going to be for him. We'll see. Here we go. Ooh. Chapter 12. So this is where, like, the meteor and the A is in the meteor, and Dimmesdale goes out on the scaffold and is thinking, and is just, like, basically grieving, I'd say, and is upset, and he, like, laughs. He laughs, and he thinks, like, what would happen if everybody saw him, if, like, the townspeople saw, like, their leader, like, fall, or it's, like, something like that, based on that, and is met with Pearl's laughter and Hester, because they were at Winthrop's deathbed, and they're on their way back, and then all three of them get on the scaffold and hold hands, and it says they form, like, an electric chain, and it's, like, I see it, and then that's when the meteor goes above with, like, the A, and I think it's like them actually, like they're actually a family, you know what I mean? So that happens, and then Chillingworth finds Dimmesdale. Dimmesdale asks Chillingworth how he knew where to find him, and Chillingworth said it was by Winthrop's deathbed. And the reason why Pearl and Hester were at Winthrop's deathbed, because Hester was making Winthrop's burial cloth, so that's where they're there. That explains why they were there. I think Chillingworth knows, or maybe has a hint, especially if you find, like, whatever is on his chest, then yes, he definitely knows what's going on. But I thought that was pretty cool. They're all three of them together. That's when Pearl asks Dimmesdale about if they could do it again. And sadly, and that's when he says on Judgment Day. So that's it for this chapter. So chapter 13, it's 7 years have passed. It, like, jumps forward quite a bit, and it's like
it basically tells what Hester has become. She's still scorned a little bit. She's like more accepted in society. She plays a bigger role in society. She helps the poor, and she's like a nurse to the poor. She's like, basically I'd call her like a sister or something, or like, I don't know what you'd call it, but somebody that helps the poor. She does that a lot, and it's like and like this, she says something about the Scarlet Letter, and it's like outlined her. It's like whatever was left of her like what was herself, and and one thing that stood out is like she thinks about what pain she's causing Dimmesdale, not revealing Chillingworth's identity, and uh, and like whatever's wrong with Pearl still. So that's about it for this chapter. 14. So basically everything comes apart, or not like comes apart, but like stuff is settled or talked about. So Hester talks to Chillingworth, and Chillingworth talks to Hester, and Chillingworth finds out about Hester and Dimmesdale and knows for a fact that it is. And Hester tells Chillingworth, or yeah, that wants to reveal his identity. And then it goes into like a spiral saying Chillingworth, like what he's become, and he's become a vengeful person, and he's lost his heart, and he's just a person of hate and vengefulness. And I forgot what the quote says, but it's like it's like whatever happened has happened, and whatever's going to happen, let it happen. And it's like, and they have an argument his fault it is and stuff, and then they're going to go on with, and I think what Chillingworth, based on what he said, he's going to go in, keep going with his vengeful plan, and that's what's going to happen. So that's what happened for this chapter. Chapter 15, so well, it starts out like as Pearl saying that, or Pearl putting like she was playing in like the seaweed or in the like by the tides in the ocean or whatever, and like she put like an A on her chest, and like they start talking, or Hester and Pearl start talking about the Scarlet Letter, and Hester decides that Pearl's too young to like know the significance and what it all really means, and but Pearl is really persistent and keeps bugging Hester about it, and that's about it for this chapter. Chapter 16, they wait for Dimmesdale in the forest, and Hester and Pearl go to the forest and wait for Dimmesdale, and Pearl asks Hester about the Black Man and what his like connection to the Scarlet Letter is, and Hester asks like out loud, "Is it the Black Man that is coming?" And knowing it's Dimmesdale that's coming, and then it kind of like reveals to Pearl, or it's like it shows that he has like the letter 2 on his chest because it says he fell, and like he grabbed his chest as he was like in the forest as he was going in there. That's about all I have for chapter 16. On to the next. Chapter 17. So they escape, and we're like Dimmesdale and Hester are like together, and they talk about, and Hester reveals to Dimmesdale that Chillingworth is her husband, and it's like something dark comes over him, and he's like blames her for her suffering, and like she puts like his face like in the Scarlet Letter, like where it's at. They eventually forgive each other, and Dimmesdale knows that like Chillingworth's a bigger sinner than both of them, and like they worry about what he's gonna do because he's gonna publicly humiliate them and find out what it's all about. And so they're planning like an escape where all 3 of them as a family can escape to Europe on a ship and like live as a family. That's it for this chapter. So for this chapter, I think it's 18. It's kind of like a happy moment. So Hester throws off her Scarlet Letter and lets her hair down and Dimsdale reveals that he can be happy again, and same with Hester, and as they walk through the forest, and like how Pearl said like the light hid from the Scarlet Letter, and it like shines in the forest, and it's all light, and it's pretty. I'm guessing that's what they describe it as, and Hester like says something about how Dimsdale and Pearl can like know each other and have like a relationship, which is pretty cool. Seeing how far everything has come, uh, it's pretty cool, and hopefully they can get away. Let's hope. Chapter 19. So like, Dimsdale and Pearl are together, and Dimsdale and Hester are together, and they ask Pearl to come like by their side, and like the Scarlet Letter's off, and like she looks at them like weirdly. Pearl does, and like puts the Scarlet Letter back on for her to come over, like be comfortable. And like Hester asks Pearl to like embrace Dimsdale, and Pearl like kisses the Scarlet Letter and Hester, and she asks if she gets pretty upset, or Pearl gets upset because like she asks them if like they'll go hand in hand back into the town and like the scaffolding, and he says no, so she gets pretty upset about it and like runs off. Hopefully this doesn't cause anything. Like, it says like it rubs it off. I'm guessing it's like whatever, like what she kissed. So I'm guessing it was like the Scarlet Letter or something. So hopefully we're alright. Chapter 20. So like Dimsdale's on his way back, and he like notices like something's different about himself, and it's like he describes like blasphemous like thoughts and stuff, and he ignores people on the way back, and he has like urges to talk to people, but he doesn't. And it's like it talks about him making like a deal with the devil, and he goes back to like the most important part, I think, is he goes to Chillingworth, and says that he doesn't need the drugs anymore, and he's like Chillingworth's like scared that he knows like who his real identity is, but he doesn't Dims doesn't reveal that, and he's going to make a new speech. He has 3 days. It's like election day, they said, and he throws his new sermon away, or his old sermon away, and he starts to draft a brand new one. That's what I got for this chapter. Chapter 21. So it's like they're getting on the ship. Dimsdale is like it's like the beginning, like they hold a marketplace, but like they hold like an event in the marketplace, but it's for a different reason. And it's not to punish Hester. And like they're on, or Pearl and Hester are in the ship, and people that are taking the ship realize that, or tell them to, that Chillingworth is coming too, because of they need a doctor on board. And then like Hester like sees him across, and like across away in the boat, and Chillingworth gives her like a smirk, like haha, not getting away with this, but I wonder what's going to happen. Hopefully he just gets kicked off, but we'll see. So chapter 22, the mistress that's like tells Pearl, or tells Hester, like basically that she knows about Dimsdale and what's going on, and Chillingworth like talks about how they're gonna get Dimsdale onto the boat, and but it makes like a point that the mistress is like a witch, because she asks Pearl to, if she wants to go on a like witch ride or something, and it make known that she's going to be executed as a witch. So that's kind of out of the way. But she knows about it, and then like kind of confirms what Chillingworth was saying earlier, that everybody will know about his mark, which is about whatever happened between them. And so that's what happened in this chapter. So the last two chapters, 23 and 24, so everything comes out, and Dimsdale dies, actually. He gives the sermon, it's like the best sermon, everybody thinks it's the best sermon he's ever had. And he reveals the letter on his chest. He gets up on the scaffolding with Pearl and Hester, and they're together as a family like they were before that one time. And Pearl finds out basically because he reveals the Scarlet Letter and on his chest, and he like sits down and he like first he tells everybody that what was going on and what happened, and then he sits down and it says he dies, and then 24 it's like conclusion of what like happened, and so Chillingworth dies like a year after. And Pearl and Hester like they disappear, it says, and there's a whole bunch of like theories on like what like some people say like he didn't see the letter on his chest, and how somebody can just be as guilty as a guilty person and not even knowing it, basically. And basically everybody trying to protect his reputation is what I got out of it. And then Hester returns, and then dies and is buried in the same graveyard as Arthur Dimmesdale. And they're not buried next to each other, but they share a gravestone with the letter A, which is pretty cool because the Scarlet Letter's A. Anyways, that's my little recap of the book. It's all 24 chapters. I'm out. I'm going to bed. Good night.